I'm not going to completely shift the focus of this channel to narcissistic abuse, and gang stalking, but I'm going to be doing more videos on it, particularly due to the situation with Mary and my defense of Mary. I think that it would be good for me to pump out a couple videos of this nature at least a couple times a week. Now, people are aware that I used to work in what do you call it, an outpatient clinical, clinical setting, an outpatient mental health clinic. So one of my jobs there was to run a weight management group. And one of the things that never occurred to me was narcissism in the clients that came to me for eating disorders. And I would help them with all sorts of eating disorders, whether they be, overeating, bulimia, uh, anorexia nervosa. I didn't like working with bulimia because bulimia is a very tricky thing. It's almost like a mix between overeating and purging, and it's very bizarre. It's way outside the realm of expertise for somebody that has a personal training certificate versus an intense study of eating disorders, which I did not. But with anorexia and overeating, what I did notice is that there is a connection to narcissism, and it seems that there are studies to prove that. But if you really look at the studies, you will see that narcissism is correlated to obsessive behavior in general. Okay? And what do I mean by this? Well, it can be substance use disorder, okay, such as alcohol, tobacco, food would be a substance, although people might not know that, cocaine, other narcotics. It can be a drug use disorder. It can be a sex addiction. It can be a pornography addiction. It can be any one of these many addictions. And I think you see this when you look at the 12 steps and 12 traditions. What does Alcoholics Anonymous really do? It helps to pull in the narcissist. It helps to bring down the narcissist back to a level where the narcissist is able to recognize their narcissistic traits. And we all have narcissistic traits, some more than others. But the point is that what these 12 steps and 12 traditions do is they help to create a group setting of narcissists, for lack of a better word, and help to curtail their narcissistic traits through a sense of accountability, and accountability to God, because you have to remember the narcissist is God in many ways to themselves. They are God. So it makes them accountable to God, and it makes them accountable to other people. That's why the moral inventory is extremely necessary in any 12-step program. Okay? And how do I know so much about the 12 steps? Well, when I was homeless, I would frequently go to 12-step meetings in order to, how can I put this, in order to get the free coffee. I think I've said that in the past. And when I did that, a lot of the meetings I went to, a lot of the meetings I preferred to go to, what are called 12 and 12 meetings, which are the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. And I'm not going to go over the 12 steps and 12 traditions right off the top of my head. Number one, because I don't remember them in order right off the top of my head. And number two, because it would be boring and redundant. But the point is, the 12 steps help to make the person accountable to society, accountable to God, accountable to a moral ideal that they may not have had prior to that. Now, what you'll notice with alcoholism, I used to be under the belief that if you remove the alcohol, the alcoholic is cured in a way. And a lot of times that is true. When you remove the substance, a lot of times the substance abuse addict is no longer participating in negative behaviors. But if you look close enough, if you spend enough time around these 12-step meetings, you'll notice substitution. you'll notice they substitute the substance of choice. In the case that I was in, it was alcohol. I didn't have an alcohol abuse issue. I just liked my coffee. But what you'll see that they substitute it with gambling is a big one. Pornography is another big one. Prostitution is another big one. Religious addiction is the number one. In fact, I'm going to leave a link to Father Leo Booth's thing on dealing with religious addiction. But religious addiction is the number one substitute in the 12-step community uh, for alcohol, for substances. They basically replace alcohol with God and church and a very unrealistic understanding of these things, to the point where they start using their religion to browbeat, demoralize, and try to bend others to their will, and try to get narcissistic supply out of others through, the use of God. Because how can you say no to God? It's what God said, if you get what I'm saying. And that's a big thing in the substance use disorder community, or the recovery community. But you'll also see that these behaviors, what you'll see a lot of also in this community is blame shifting. It's always everybody else's fault. And again, that's why moral inventory is so important for these people to take. Obesity was, what's actually funny with the obesity, I've always been into fitness. And not from an arrogant standpoint. The reason I got into fitness at an early age was I had hypercholesterolemia when I was 11 from a number of psychiatric medicines I was on. And after the psychiatric medicines were removed and I went on the Atkins diet, and I dedicated myself diligently to weightlifting, cardio, and karate, I became healthy. Okay. So I've always been very much intrigued by fitness and the transformative power of fitness. But what you'll notice, and I'm going to get into this quickly because I have friends that are also into fitness and athletics and things like that, and you see a lot of narcissism, particularly in the bodybuilding community, and particularly amongst those that use steroids. Okay? So that's the thing, is what came first, the steroid use or the narcissism? Probably the narcissism. Okay? So that's what you have to understand, is these people seem to be born this way, in my opinion. Now, I want to remind everybody, I'm not a mental health clinician. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm talking about my personal observations as someone that has just lived through this stuff, and has witnessed narcissistic abuse by a number of people. And there are people that seem to draw narcissistic abuse. I don't like using the term empath because I don't think that's the right term. And this is the thing, as I said, everybody has narcissistic traits. It's a matter of acknowledging your narcissistic traits. I have always tried to make sure that I acted in the most humble manner possible, simply because I've known that doing the opposite ends badly for them. It ends badly for everyone when they act with a lot of hubris instead of humility. It really negatively impacts them. And that's why something like the 12 steps and really that moral inventory is very important. I wasn't always a pantheist. For a while, I was an atheist, but actually looking at things the way they are brought me back toward a belief in God, a pantheistic belief in God. And I do think that perhaps a belief in God, particularly a pantheistic, non-aggressive, non-domineering understanding of God, is important. And I did order the book, Bible Hygiene by Ellen G. White. And I'm going to go over that because I find that very interesting. I did a video on how believing in, trusting in God and the 8 laws of health is the same as not giving a crap. It's recognizing that you're not God. That's the number one thing. It's not so important that you believe in a higher power. This is the thing. The belief in a higher power and trusting in a higher power is not the important factor. The most important factor is knowing that you're not the higher power. You're not God. When you try to become God, you get yourself into trouble. Okay, that's the number one thing. See, one of the things working with overweight people, I never saw so many people that were so out of shape, so sick, and so unhealthy that they just did not, and so arrogant, except at the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And this shows to me that there is a level of narcissism that correlates between that the narcissism is the causative factor in both the obesity and the substance use disorder. Overeating is also overeating and religious addiction are probably they go hand in hand, hand in glove, I should say, in the recovery community, the substance use community. They're always shoving something sweet in their mouth, so much so that in the, I think it's the big book that oh, one of the founders of AA stated that you should always be eating something sweet. Uh, and now there's sugar substitutes and stuff. There's no excuse for not having something sweet. They're very big addicted. They're very big addiction to sweets amongst alcoholics in particular. But yeah, when you look at the type of people, and if you don't believe me, go to an AA meeting. There's nothing keeping you from going to an AA meeting. Most AA meetings will take people that aren't alcoholic. You just say, I'm just listening, instead of I'm an alcoholic. And then you just go there. Most of the time when I was in AA, I was just listening. Okay. And you'll see the behavioral traits of the people in these meetings correlates very well to the traits of narcissism. And that's all for this video. I thought I'd make it real quick.